Welcome aboard for another edition of the Smart Driving Cars podcast. This edition is sponsored by the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF, symbol MOTO. For more information, head to motoetf.com. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alain Kornhauser. Hi, Alain.
Hey, good afternoon, Fred.
So our listeners, Alain, and viewers are probably pretty familiar with Waymo's leadership and innovation in providing an autonomous and driverless ride-hailing service. Waymo won in Chandler, Arizona. But the big news this month from the Google Alphabet-owned technology company surrounds moving goods. Our guest from Waymo Via is product manager Xinfeng. We appreciate you taking the time with us, Xinfeng.
Of course, Fred. It's really nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Love having you. Want to hear all about it.
You are a product manager on the trucking side of Waymo, where the news this month is a partnership with transportation logistics company JB Hunt to use automated trucks in Texas, at least initially there. Give us the overview.
Yeah, of course. So as you mentioned, last week we announced that we're working with JB Hunt, a leading for-hire truckload carrier with operations across the U.S. to haul freight autonomously in Texas. Our Waymo Via trucks will be carrying goods for one of JB Hunt's leading customer along I-45 between Houston and Fort Worth. For those of the audience who doesn't know, I-45 is one of the most highly utilized freight corridors in the country, so it makes a great place for us to continue advancing the Waymo driver for trucking there.
Do you have any start date for when this is going to begin?
Yeah, this is a limited duration pilot, and we'll be delivering goods between Houston and Fort Worth in the coming weeks.
So it's going to start fairly soon. What can you tell us about how this is going to work? Is it one truck, a number of trucks? Will there be safety drivers involved?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we'll be starting in the coming weeks, and it's a limited duration pilot, and we'll be delivering multiple loads. We'll use multiple trucks and doing multiple runs over the coming weeks. And for these trial runs, our Class 8 trucks operated by the Waymo driver will have two autonomous specialists. So one with the CDL license on the driver's seat and another software technician on the passenger seat. They will be on board to monitor the Waymo driver's operation.
And
these will have Waymo only employees or contractors in the cab. Is that, do I understand it right? Or there are three folks, the person who would normally drive the truck and then two Waymo folks?
Yeah, so there will be two, we call them autonomous specialists. So on the driver's seat is one with a CDL license, and then we have another software technician on the passenger seat as well.
So the one of the Waymo people will have a CDL license. So tell us how this is going, what's going on with JB Hunt. How is this different from the other kinds of testing that you've been doing until now?
Yeah, the biggest difference, I think, with any kind of pilots and trial runs we do is we will be carrying actual freight cargo as part of the pilot. So this is not the first time we're doing this. We have previously hauled loads to and from Google's data centers through a pilot back in 2018, as well as on behalf of other commercial partners outside of Alphabet. But I think it's also worth noting this is not just about the pilot either. Like, in addition to hauling freight, we've also been working very closely with fleets, including JB Hunt, on operational and market studies. And we'll continue to do so as we roll out autonomous driving technology. So we had an opportunity to get direct feedback from fleets like JB Hunt into how we're designing our technology and product so that we're making sure we're building something that market needs. And we continue to deepen our understanding of how fleet operates today as well.
So this is about a 260-mile route between Houston and Fort Worth?
Correct. So we'll be picking up loads from a facility in Houston and delivering that to another facility in Fort Worth along I-45.
And you're not disclosing who the customer of JB Hunt is?
No, we're not discussing. We're not disclosing that information at the time.
So Go ahead,
So
Alan.
during the test, I guess everybody who's sort of watching you do this, because some folks are, of course, watching you do this or trying to watch you do this, because this is sort of important. If at some point this technology has to deliver some value to society, it can't just be reports on shelves, right? I guess I think they must have told you that. In California, where you were doing the testing with drivers and people and the Pacificas and so on, and you measured disengagements and you reported disengagements. Are you going to I know you're going to know the disengagements. Are you going to report the disengagements associated with the provision of the service and discuss anything about disengagements?
Yeah, so I think, I guess the way that we think about it, and I think Waymo has been talking about this externally in various forums. I think our overall safety framework is definitely more than just disengagement. And we actually published quite a few papers just talking about how we're evaluating that. I think either Fred or Alain, you're actually one of the external consultant who has reviewed our papers on that.
Yeah, of course, and I was privileged to do that. Yeah.
So I think so. That's why I want to kind of talk a little bit about that, because we think it's more than just disengagement. Obviously, the industry and others have looked at disengagement as one of the metrics to evaluate progress, and we think that's not the most comprehensive way for us to think about that. With that being said, we're not disclosing any disengagement metrics as part of this pilot run, but I think you will probably continuously hear from us in terms of our progress and whether or not we, in our overall safety evaluation for a Waymo driver, both on the passenger side as well as the truck side. So we're excited to sort of share those things as we make progress, but at this time, we're not disclosing any disengagement data as part of this pilot.
I know that some people who sort of watch you from the outside sort of focus more or less or say various good or bad things about disengagements. I happen to think that disengagements are, as long as one is really trying to do a business with this, as opposed to, you can game the system and show up with no disengagements. I mean, Nevada desert, here we come again, or something like that, right? But if in fact one's going to, which I imagine this is maybe what you're trying to do, maybe I'll put words in your mouth or see if I can put words in your mouth. You are trying to make a product that in fact may be able to go and do whatever it is you're trying to do right now without anybody in the cab. And if there's, to be able to do it without anybody in the cab, your expectation of disengagements better be close to zero. I would think. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong in terms of that, simplistic look at it. And so, in some sense, to me, disengagements are really, really important. You get them, you fix it. You don't get them again, you're good, right? I mean, that seems, or am I too simplistic in my approach to this whole thing as to, the value of doing this test, right? Or
yeah, so I think one thing, just to confirm what you're saying, like we're definitely developing L4 autonomous driving system, right? So what we believe is the only way to really realize the full potential of autonomous driving technology. So yes, we are envisioning in the future where it's L4 level autonomous. And I think one thing that's worth noting about this engagement, and you touched on as well, those are really helpful tools in terms of discovery in the process of development, right? So we really use that as a tool for us to understand, what are the areas that we should be focusing on, how to improve our system. But I guess I would say, you mentioned like, you can game the system and present a disengagement trip.
Yeah, I mean,
we really don't think of it as a metric that, is sort of the North Star and what we're trying to achieve, but more about using it as a tool to advance our testing and development.
Yeah, and that's of course what we will all expect you to be doing. I mean, you're doing this serious. This is not a game. This is a serious thing. You're trying to see if in fact you can contribute to a real business. And this is if JB Hunt is moving things from these 2 points, it is a real business, and in a sense, if one's going to conduct this without at some point in time without drivers, one actually has to do it. I mean, right? You can't game it at that time,
is a
right?
service that Waymo is aiming to sell to trucking companies, correct? The autonomous driver service.
Correct. So our vision is that we'll be we call it driver as a service, right? So we through this model will be a technology providers for fleet. So obviously we'll be working in partnership with OEMs and tier 1 suppliers, so like Daimler trucks, and so we'll make trucks available with the Waymo driver and provide that driver as a service to fleet, who then will operate those autonomous trucks. So that is our long-term vision. But as we are continuing to test our drivers in Class A trucks over the coming years, we will be operating our own truck of fleets, and then we will offer freight services to fleet customers, which will deeply integrated in their fleet operations.
Oh, okay. So you're thinking about doing both. You're thinking about actually, doing the service with your own trucks. I mean, you can go out and buy them from, I don't know, Daimler or Volvo or somebody like that. Just like you went out and got the Pacificas, right? I mean, you went out and bought, or in one way or another acquired Pacificas, and you put your stuff on there, and you then are running things in Chandler, right? I mean, not to simplify the process, but right?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different because our long-term vision is this driver as a service model. So the things that we're doing when we're operating our fleet of trucks is really to sort of enable like the short-term deployment of technology, but it's in service of achieving that longer-term vision of driver as a service.
Okay, so if I could see if I can discuss that with you a little bit, I guess when I've sort of looked, and who am I? I'm just in some Princeton bubble here, not in any way in reality, but whatever. But when I've looked at especially the trucker model, the freight movement model, it has seemed to me that the maybe the biggest value, but an enormous value that a Waymo driver could provide is really not to replace the driver, but to really help the driver. I've made some outlandish statements that you're allowed to completely disagree with, which I'll first say Waymo completely disagrees with what I'm about to say. But that in fact, the driving of a truck is an enormously difficult task that some poor person, male or female, is out there doing for a substantial amount of time every day to feed their family, and that is an enormously difficult job. And in fact, I've looked at accident statistics and so on and so forth, and when you start looking at those things, you see that the truck driving is about as unsafe as coal mining, which when you look at it, it kind of goes too long. And those folks out there doing that work every day and did all that work in the past 15 months and so on, to making sure that we had things on the shelf that we could have and so on, were out there working. And I think they need help in that cab. And I've always thought that, in fact, maybe the best, or certainly the short-term value proposition that all of the work that Waymo has done in developing this technology is to help these folks, is to keep them safe, is to really reduce crashes, reduce deaths. And that if I was, and I did spend some amount of my career in the logistics business, trucking and blah, 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 but if I was a CEO of a trucking company of JB Hunt, I would see the value that I bring to my workforce in terms of safety and improved working conditions as being a sufficient return on investment that I could, pay Waymo handsomely for the technology before I ever remove a driver. Okay.
Yeah,
To what extent has that gone? Can I ask you to what extent that thought reverberates in your mind, or are you just going driverless, get them out of there, and we want to replace them? I mean, or is that an unfair question?
I think it is along some of the lines that you just shared. I think like one, just personally, I've worked in logistics space even before Waymo. Like I appreciate, the fact that this economy runs on trucks, right? If you
Right, and
look
runs
around,
on trucks. Yeah.
yeah, if you look around, like I would say, like 95% of the things you see right now in your home has been on a truck, when on its way delivered to you. So we recognize, how important it is, the industry, and we really think the technology that we can bring would really help the lives and work environment for truck drivers. I think, most importantly, I think on the safety aspect, we do think fully autonomous driving technology can help make the industry even safer. Yeah, Alain, you mentioned like truck driving is one of the, number one with the highest fatality rate in any of jobs in the U.S. So we know safety is a critical thing, not just for us, but for all the fleets out there. They really want to sort of foster this strong safety culture and investment that the fleet has worked hard to create, and they continuously improve on. So we share the same mission to keep drivers, goods, and all road users safe, and look forward to collaborating with fleet and advance the safety across the board. And in addition to that, we think this technology can offer drivers more flexibility and options. We're really optimistic about how the technology will bring many new business and jobs, including some of the ones that the world has yet to imagine. Right? As an example, some of our drivers, the autonomous specialists that we're working with, are industrial veterans of over 20 years, and their knowledge and expertise they have bring to the table, really help us advance, our autonomous driving technology development. And there will continue to be needs for humans within, the autonomous vehicle operations. We at Waymo want to focus on right now the driving task, but the other tasks that still needs to be done to support sort of truck operation. Like for example, truck drivers today, they do more than just driving trucks. They need people on board to load and unload cargo, inspect trucks, doing all the pre-trip, post-trip inspection, record deliveries, fueling and cleaning the vehicle. So we believe there's still going to be a lot of tasks that need supports from human drivers, and we think just the technology itself will also bring more job opportunities and business into the space as well.
Yeah, I think
go ahead,
I think that's sort of what just seems to not have been picked up as strongly by the motor carrier industry as it should be.
That's what I was going to ask you. What have you heard from the industry? Have there been discussions surrounding this?
Yeah, I guess one thing, we did announce our partnership with JB Hunt last week, and I think since then we actually hear a lot of excitement from the industry. Obviously, we see a lot of coverage of this partnership in a lot of trade magazines in the space, and many trucking companies, including JB Hunt, I think they want to be part of this journey, and they want to be a part of this journey early on, so that they're not just adopting the technology once it's available. They want to understand how the technology works and how it can be integrated into their operation early on. And a lot of the benefits that we talked about, from added safety and efficiency to cost savings. And I think they're interested in evaluating how they can help bring this technology to market sooner and realize those benefits sooner.
Yeah, in the places where I've looked at this, it's been hard for an outside entity to be able to get data, because of course the trucking industry is a private sector industry that really keeps its information very close to the vest. But in the data that I've been able to extract out of the industry, I mean, one of the interesting things is that the sort of throw out the number, the average liability exposure for a Class A truck is something like $15,000 a year. And I've sort of picked off the wall that Waymo-like driver technology with a driver backup there, not taking the driver out of there, driver supervising and being assisted by it, if it's at all any good, which I would assume it is, should be able to take that number and drop it at least in half. So that means a contribution of at least $7,500 a year cash. That tends to be for trucking executives. A lot of that is self-insured. The CEO is paying for that out of his or her own pocket. Why? Because the way they're insured, it's not the insurance of the trucking industry is different than that of a car owner. They get the choice of being able to self-insure and then go to maybe Munich Re or somebody and buy a tail on that thing for the super to cover the super bad events. But most of the liability is held basically as self-insured by, it shows up on the balance sheet at the top as an expense. And that's an expense that in fact, the Waymo driver could substantially help on one end, just being a front end return year in, year out. Secondly, in terms of the stress and so on the driver, the medical benefits associated with that are yet to be completely quantified, but are more than substantial. And then, the industry itself has a problem of a shortage of drivers. Why? Because it's a tough job. It requires somebody to sit there 10 hours a day, paying attention. You don't pay attention for 12 seconds and you die. You can't say that, but I can say that because I'm totally irresponsible. But this is a serious business in which people, really work hard every day, and I think they need help, and I think you can provide that help and provide it very beneficially without, beginning to talk about, hey, it's going to be driverless and all the, funny Sunday supplement, who knows what, for which, boy, you better not have a disengagement. Okay. Well, you have a disengagement, you lose the truck. Yeah. The probability of disengagement has to be, take the limit as epsilon goes to zero, man.
Well, we've seen the way Waymo is operated in Chandler, Alan. We know the approach that they take and step by step in getting it right. And we've admired that.
Absolutely.
So, from a personal standpoint, tell us your thoughts about helping to bring this innovation to the trucking industry. As you mentioned previously, you had been working in the industry, in logistics. Tell us about it.
Yeah. I think having worked in the industry for a while, I think one key thing about bringing this new technology to market is we really need to work very closely with those key market stakeholders like JB Hunt to really fully understand and appreciate the complexity of logistics, right? It's not really just, putting an autonomous vehicle on the road and, you have a business and you have a product. So this kind of collaboration, with key market players and like JB Hunt really helps us understand the logistics market and make sure that we're building a product that customers can benefit from. So, we're not developing the product in a vacuum. We're working with the industry together and polish a product that we think our customer will want and can really benefit from the autonomous technology.
You're not marking these vehicles in any way, I assume, to tell other drivers on the road that they're being driven autonomously, even though you have safety drivers in there?
So right now, a lot of our testing fleet is branded. So you will see the signature Waymo color, and we also have Waymo Via branded trailers on the road as well. So you will be able to identify our trucks, at least in some locations, yes.
I wasn't sure you wanted people to notice or not.
It's out there, so people see it.
Unfortunately, somewhat of a long time ago, I tried to argue to NHTSA that in fact, whenever I put my car in cruise control, whether it be intelligent cruise control or stupid cruise control, a little light should go on the top of my car to inform other drivers that my driving mode is going to now be basically stay at constant speed, as opposed to most driving people's modes. They have a constant depression of the gas pedal, which means if you're on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, you speed up going downhill and you slow up going uphill. Whereas if I'm in automated, which it would show that, then it would at least let other drivers know that in fact, this is what I'm doing. This is what my car is going to do. And they didn't like that. They just thought that was the most stupid thing that they had ever heard in their lives. So I'm glad to hear that you don't mind branding your vehicles that say, hey, this thing is going to be driven by a computer. That in fact, I don't know how you're going to deal with the speed limits. I won't even ask you, because I can imagine that is. I don't even know how you're doing that. The speed limits are set for humans to deal with, not for computers to deal with, which means that, if you set something for me to deal with, I'm going to game it and push it and take 9 over. Whereas if it's going to be something that you program, you're going to put it in their beam. And people want to apply the same to both things, which to me is, come on, you get serious here. This is not good. So it's kind of a shame that Washington or Texas or Trenton or whatever other state entities don't deal with that. But this is potentially a problem that doesn't need to be a problem. How are you addressing problems that don't need to be problems? Not to ask you the tough question.
I think what Alan is asking is whether or not these trucks are going to go the speed limit.
Well, they have to. Of course, they have to. What are they going to do? Don't answer. I don't want you to answer that one because they're put in a corner. They can't do. They know what the right thing to do is. They can't do the right thing. That's the shame of it. Fred, what's your next question?
I think she's answered.
I'm trying to help you here, right? Well, it is, isn't it?
Exactly.
Do you want to say how frustrating that is? Being forced to do something that really isn't the right thing to do. But I guess you can't say that.
That goes beyond.
So I won't ask you. Yeah, it goes
beyond trucking. It goes beyond.
It goes to all of this stuff.
Right. So, one thing we did want to mention today before we let you go is that Waymo announced a $2.5 billion with a B dollar investment round to go toward the advancement of autonomous driving technology and growing the team. So congratulations on that. Hope you get a nice chunk of it. That's terrific.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more, but first, this is a good time to remind you about our sponsor, the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF, symbol MOTO. To get more info, head to motoetf.com. On the website, look for a white paper. It's called The Smart Transportation Revolution. It's under the Insights and News tab. Lots of great information there to help you make informed decisions. And you may already know ETFs can be a smart way to spread risk with your investments and focus on a particular category of stocks. The site, once again, is motoetf.com. We're back with more of the Smart Driving Cars podcast. And Alan, there's some headlines we want to touch on. First, MacKenzie Scott gives away another $2.74 billion as her wealth continues to grow. And you have this way up there in the newsletter.
Well, I have it way up there. I think I've commented on it before. It's not quite Smart Driving Cars, but in a sense, I'm just, so proud of what she's doing, since she is a Princeton graduate. So is Jeff, but not just because of that, but my goodness, the way she's doing her philanthropy, I just think it's just so wonderful, because basically she is disrupting the whole philanthropic process. which if you end up looking at it is probably a staid process that has been that way for, who knows how many centuries. Talk about a smokestack industry or something like that. And she basically is looking at it and she's being totally disruptive and saying, why should I impose so much overhead on those that could actually use this? Then instead of spending money on overhead, spend the money on the good things that they're doing. And fundamentally saying, I'm going to go find people who are really committed to what they're doing. And they know they're out there struggling, trying to make things happen. They know how to spend the money. Why do I need for them to both justify it to me and secondly, maintain whatever to then justify it on the back end? Please use the money for what you're trying to do. And I'm getting out of the way. So if you probably look at the productivity of each dollar that she's putting there, it's likely to, have at least a 25%, if not 50% productivity improvement over the way other foundations and the way the philanthropic mode came out. So the interesting thing is she's being maybe as, if not more disruptive than Jeff was or is with Amazon. And she's doing it within this industry, is just basically turning it upside down. And here the New York Times is out there because of its, oh man, fair journalism. It's got to bring both positive and negative things. It dug up a couple of negative things associated with what she's doing. Oh my goodness. The public should know why she did it. Why should the public know? It's her money. She gets to do with it. Really, the public has to put its nose in there. And then they got somebody else to suggest that, oh man, what about all the think tanks and so on in Washington? They know how to make change. Really? They certainly haven't done a very good job up to this point, and she needs to have them involved. Cut it out. I mean, congratulations, MacKenzie. Keep it up. And oh my goodness, the thing that she's finding out is she can't spend it fast enough because the income side of her, of wherever this comes from, is growing faster than she can spend it. But go for it. And congratulations. And when everybody looks at the, I put the link in there to her announcement of everybody she funded. I mean, my goodness, congratulations.
It's phenomenal. Absolutely. And there's an Amazon truck outside your door. That's where the money comes from.
Yeah, it does. And great. And I guess, look, I mean, Amazon's been, there have been, again, the New York Times has been in there with a couple of, looking at how hard Amazon workers work and so on and whatever. Yeah, workers work hard. I mean, go out into look at the people who pick blueberries in New Jersey, huh? When the blueberry crop comes in, look at how hard those folks work. And, people work hard. And in fact, even, sometimes professors work hard, although rarely. People and industries make them work hard, and all this new technology of being able to watch and monitor folks is, I mean, geez, it's really, I'm putting, one of the links of the, I Love Lucy episode where she's working the assembly line of cakes or something like that she has to.
I think it was candy, a conveyor belt.
Candy or whatever it was. I mean, it was, yeah. 90% of the people alive today probably never saw it, but whatever. Bring that back. I mean, we're
in a different demographic now.
when you're yes, we are. But when you're sitting there and you're a human worker interacting with machines and AIs and whatever and Rubberg contraptions and whatever, boy, you have to work hard. And unfortunately, those folks have to work hard.
Well, on the subject of AI, you've got another company in here. I'm not even sure how it's pronounced. Waabi, Waabi, maybe?
Yeah.
has launched to build a pathway to commercially viable, scalable, autonomous driving. They're saying they've been in stealth for quite some time, I guess.
Well, I don't know. I guess I'm assuming they've been in stealth since Uber decided to sell their autonomous vehicle activity to Aurora. And although, some people have had sell, I think they gave it away, or I'm not sure, but it certainly wasn't a hefty sum. And I think most of those folks, and I guess their IP was originally with Uber, and what happened with that transaction, and how some of this somehow didn't get transferred to Aurora and went out and now is creating an entity in and of itself, and what is the actual source of the people might be fine, because I guess they weren't hired by Aurora, so they're free to go to work somewhere else. The IP that they may be bringing, I don't know. It seems to me that that when Auto was created some time back, it wasn't very pretty. It, again, involved somewhat of the same, some of the same players at the time, with Lewandowski, but Lewandowski's not in this one. But I think some of the players were involved, and so I don't know. I just hope it doesn't turn out to be another Auto.
Let's hope not. Argo AI's CEO says an IPO is expected within the next year.
Great.
I guess we've been waiting for that.
We've been waiting for that. I guess there have been a number of IPOs lately that have been pre-revenue IPOs, and I guess seems like maybe the market doesn't mind pre-revenue IPOs, but I can't expect Ford Argo to have revenue before it goes public, and so I guess it's on a promise, but maybe they have a chance to deliver.
And they've got Ford, as you said, and Volkswagen behind them too.
They have Ford and Volkswagen, and as far as I can see, they're still focused on driverless. But we mentioned earlier the Waymo announcement for this round of funding. And there's a little thing in there. There's a little statement in that announcement suggesting that that Waymo is dedicated to basically bringing out vehicles that where individuals can benefit from and use the Waymo driver technology. And I don't know, when I saw that, I was just wondering, what does that mean? Unfortunately, one of them, I'm still stuck at a position where I don't believe there is a market for driverless cars sold to the public, that at least not in any near term that any investor would be investing in.
And as you've said before, one of the reasons is certainly the liability issue.
It's a liability. It is fundamentally the liability. I buy one of these things from Waymo, personal car, it drives me and so on, and then I send it to you to give you a ride because it's driverless. I guess I can do that. It's driverless. Should be able to go upon my direction. It's not going to decide itself to go to you. I mean, that's just Looney Tunes. Okay. But I decide to send it to you, and something happens before it comes back home to me. Who's responsible? Me? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Waymo told me I could send it, driverless. I can send it to you. It means they cannot have a disengagement while it's on their way to you or when it's driving you around. Heaven forbid, maybe when on the way to you, but certainly not when it's driving you around. Otherwise, Waymo has to be there to pick up the tab. And I don't think no Munich reinsurance or no insurance companies. I mean, they got self-insure that somehow. I guess they may be rich enough.
A big issue for the whole.
I mean, that means I can have no disengagements, and I'm Waymo. I'm not in there making sure that I took proper care or whatever, everything's okay. Now, maybe remotely they can monitor the vehicle to make sure that absolutely every system is ship-shape, otherwise they send out a service person to go fix it. I mean, if something's wrong with it, they can't just let it go driverlessly to the Waymo fix-it place to get it fixed. Talk to me here. I don't know. This isn't rocket science at this point.
It goes way beyond Waymo, obviously. Tesla with its plans.
Well, but that's hype. Tesla's not going to deliver that either. Okay. Tesla's it's not even conceivable, even in a crazy market. Okay. So what it means to me is that, Waymo's thrown in the towel to driverless. And what they want to do is just put their thing out there to be like, autopilot. Provide the comfort and convenience and have a thing on the bottom saying you have to be in the driver's seat and you have to be paying attention because you're responsible. So it's no longer I can get out and send it to you. It's no longer that we can have an operating company that has a fleet of these that brings them in every day to maintain them and and make sure that and all that. No.
Well, I guess the question would be, does it really mean they're throwing in the towel or opening up another avenue for a business?
Sure, they're opening up another avenue for business.
But does it mean they're abandoning the other business? That's the question.
Maybe, but I think those that have said the real business is driverless and it's the real, Adam Jonas, $10 trillion worldwide industry and and we're not going after that anymore. We're going after comfort and convenience and put this in vehicles so that whoever isn't Tesla cannot look like Tesla. And provide a system that provides the comfort and convenience that the autopilot provides, and but has that. And if we want to go talk about Sae levels, this is not level 3, not level 4, level 5. I mean, that's Looney Tunes too. That never existed anyway. This is level 2. This is what I've had in my car since 2014. This is what are in Teslas. This is, and they're going after that market, realizing that, the other one, if Chandler was really working, and if Chandler was really a start that was showing that in fact, it could accelerate the deployment and really take off, the hockey stick, then they would never divert their attention and say, we're going to back off and just try to sell this to, some car maker to put in there, who knows what.
Well, I guess we'll have to see where it leads, and maybe they'll come on for further discussion about.
No, I don't think they're going to I didn't ask it. I don't think they would discuss it with me. I don't think it's fair to ask them to discuss it with me. It's certainly not fair to ask anybody but the CEO. because this is a CEO decision. This is a top, this is absolutely at the top direction setting fundamental decision of the company. This isn't some, down in the, hey, new branch of business to do. We're going to set up lemonade stand over here and we're going to have a little new business with it. I don't know. I did not like seeing that one statement in there.
Well, moving on, the final headline to get to. You may be paying more for Uber, but drivers aren't getting their cut, a fair cut of the fare. So
Uber's a taxi
that's nothing
company.
new, really, right?
Uber's a taxi company. It's, we had taxi companies for the past 100+ years. They use a computer to get it to you and your whatever. It's instead of using a phone, you use your a pay phone or whatever with a copper wire running from it. You use until Uber or Lyft can do something about ride sharing, which they haven't done yet, and can do something about the driver expense, which they can't do as long as they have human drivers. They're a taxi company. They're a yellow cab, they're green cab, they're black car, they're that. And
with a very good app.
Great. But it is a very good app, and that provides some opportunity, but it is a mode of transportation that cannot be inexpensive. And for some is used when you really have to go someplace or really want to go someplace. I think we use our cars. The great thing about the mobility of our cars is we use them when we sort of have, not so great places to go, but they do improve our lives because it's so darn flexible, available, cheap for us to use our own car once we've, bitten the bullet of the capital cost. Okay. And somebody that can't bite that bullet is stuck. And sure, when you have to go someplace, you do it. Why? Because it's so important that you get there. That's why you took a cab before. Just the fact that it's a little bit easier to summon the darn thing, I don't think makes that much of the difference when you're dealing with a cab and you have to pay for that driver. And it was kind of nice when the driver, you could just basically throw them, chump change and they would do it. But, the number of people who want to work and do that for chump change isn't all that much. So therefore, at some point, you've got to pay for the vehicle. You've got to pay for its maintenance. You've got to pay for its gas. You've got to pay for its oil. You got to pay for its road taxes. And you have to pay the driver so that the driver can feed his or her family. And when you do that, you're a cab company.
And the cost of the ride is obviously...
You tell me. It's obviously higher. And, whether or not there will be some public entity that'll say, oh, yeah, sure, we want you to be chauffeured around the cab and we're going to pay for that to make it so the cost to you, the fare to you is affordable. And we're going to put the rest of it on society to pay. Society's going to say what? I don't know. Let them use the bus. They deserve to be picked up and dropped and by themselves and so on. Are you kidding me? I don't know. I mean, these are basics, fundamentals. This isn't, again, rocket science.
Meanwhile, the push on your end for new mobility in New Jersey and elsewhere continues.
And to do that, I mean, if we are really, I mean, The only thing we want to push for the only thing I want to push for Trenton is whatever it takes to be able to get to a point in a relatively short period of time, 2 years, something like that, in which you can actually provide the mobility out there without having to pay for the driver. And that doesn't mean the driver works for free. It means there's no driver in there. And then there's no car chasing it so that the driver is not in the car behind you instead of in the car with you or some stupid thing or whatever. You know, it's really from the operational part of it. And when you do your balance sheet, there isn't this enormous labor charge in there to feed families. Then maybe, and if we can put it in a situation in which people are so comfortable with it, are so appreciative of it, are so caring for it, that they don't mind using it with somebody else, then we're in business. If I'm building a Hyde hotel that has, I don't know, 20 stories, and all the people that want to go up to their rooms are demanding that they be in elevators just by themselves all the time, I can't do that. So even in, 5-star Hilton, I pick one. I don't even know what a high-class hotel is. I'm sort of a Motel 6 guy myself, but never mind. People have to share elevator rides every once in a while. That's good. No problem. Middle of the night, hey, you get it by yourself. Good. No problem. Same thing here horizontally. Why can't we provide that to the people who live in Trenton?
And all of the other Trentons.
And all the other Trentons. And the Greenvilles and the Daytons and the Peorias and you name them. Even the Salt Lake Cities and the Minneapolises and the Newarks. Why not? But you've got to be able to take the driver out there. And when you do, the probability of a disengagement has to be very close to zero. You got to be really good. And, the whole process of disengagements and what the process is to get from, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do, but at least let me pull over and keep everybody somewhat safe, wait for help. I wouldn't even call that a disengagement. I'd say that's proper operation. Let those be small. But the fact that if a thing really goofs up and hits a tree, how can a Tesla, even if somebody's in the back seat, have its collision avoidance system allow a Tesla to hit a tree? Come on, Elon, work on that autopilot. I mean, it can't do that.
And the work continues, Alan.
I guess, people, they just hate me. I don't know. I'm sorry.
You're doing the right thing.
Whatever.
We want to thank Xinfeng Le from Waymo.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For taking the time with us. Greatly appreciated. Thank you also to our sponsor, the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF. The ticker symbol for the ETF is MOTO. More information is available at motoetf.com. You can find us once again at smartdrivingcar.com, also on Anchor FM, Spotify, TuneIn, Apple, Google, Spreaker, wherever you get your podcasts. Your smart speaker can play us too. You can find my tech reports at techstimation.com. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alain Kornhauser. Thank you for listening or watching. Please continue to stay safe.
Thank you, Fred. Enjoyed it, everybody.